I just think it's funny.
What?
Dunleavy, we made cold calls. Does he really have to say that?
It's like anything. It's like any other trade. We have to make a good trade. We have to make a trade that makes sense. If we thought we had a great trade in front of us, and by the way, without talking a little bit too much, more than I should, about secret, dealings that went on in the offseason, we made at least 2 very big offers in the last 6 months, let's put it that way, between the trade deadline and the summer, at least 2, but were multiple draft choices. So it's not like we wouldn't move them if we thought it was the right thing to do. We moved one for Jimmy when we got him then. I can tell you that our offers that we did make were more than 2. They were a significant amount of draft capital. They didn't work out. The cost was too high to be justifiable, or we weren't selected. I mean, these things happen. I've told you guys, I've told all our fans from day one, we're always, this, we're going to go after pretty much anybody who's a good player and check it out. Check out the situation at all times. We want to be as good as we can be this year. Okay, we're trying to be the best team we can do. We're trying to win an NBA championship. I think obviously we have a ways to go to do that, but we're coming off some big injuries. But the point is, we're always trying to be the best team we can be, and we're very aggressive about doing these things.
Okay, they were very aggressive.
That was good for Joe.
Yeah, it's okay for Joe to do that, but Mike, not?
That was more than cold calls. But to hear him say he's willing, and again, these are words, to come off of draft picks, and they had. And I'm thinking he said the trade deadline, that had to be Giannis last year with Radio Row.
I think it's Kawhi and Giannis, one way or the other.
Okay.
I think it's Kawhi at the deadline and Giannis at the deadline, and maybe Giannis again this offseason. That's different than
cold calls to me. That was like, man, you're telling us Mike never said we were willing to come off future draft capital, and you could be like, Guru, what's that mean? But Joe said, like it was signed, sealed, and done, but the other team takes 2 to tango. So it's not about we're biting our nails and we're not willing to move any future number one. It sounded like he was locked and loaded.
I see no difference between Mike Dunleavy saying we tried to do a lot of things and I made a lot of cold calls, and Joe Lacob saying, hey, we had a couple deals that we were willing to do.
With some draft picks involved.
Exactly.
I think that's different. That's just me.
If you can't pull it off, you can't pull it off.
But now we got insight as to what they were willing to do, because when I heard Mike talk, it's not Mike's fault. I always thought the Warriors' future draft capital was Elliot Ness, untouchable. Joe just said we had something dialed up to where we had more than a couple first round. I was like, whoa, okay.
Right.
You went for it.
No, but they didn't. Who cares if they didn't get through? You know what I mean? Like
that part I
Joe
agree.
Lacob is doing the exact same thing as Mike Dunleavy, and he's saying, we're really active. We're trying to get good. We had stuff on the hopper. We had stuff in the hopper. It takes 2 to tango. Well, like Mike Dunleavy saying, I made a lot of calls. Nothing happened. So they made, I'm willing to go down that road. Okay, you were super aggressive this offseason, and nothing happened. What does that tell you? That tells me
what we already know.
That tells me that whatever deals they were putting together for and willing to include draft picks, they didn't have enough good players to do that.
Yeah, I'm not fighting you on that. I just love the fact that Joe was willing and moving forward, that it's not off limits to touch some future. We're willing, if we think we can get it done. We didn't, but I like hearing that.
Mike Dunleavy has talked about those picks and balancing those picks in terms of getting a really good player in here now versus what happens down the line. He's talked about how we got to be careful with those picks if we dangle them. Mm-hmm. I just see 2 guys, both on the defensive in a little way, saying, guys, we tried, we didn't get anything done, and now
why's everybody mad?
Now we're pushing it to next year. So, let's see. How about what do you think of this one?
All right.
Well, what do you want to get into with Lacob?
All of it.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Here's more.
Right,
here's
before
more
you hit the button, can I just say something? You brought up something that I thought was very provocative. The Bob Myers, him leave the farewell presser, and we don't know if Joe really did know or was oblivious to Bob leaving or how serious that was. So we left that as, And then we talked about what you just brought up with why are people mad? Does he really believe that? Or does he, are those words? I think this JK thing is another example of Joe really believing what he's saying about. He didn't know Joe was leaving. I mean, Bob was leaving. That was the end. But to sit here and say to us that they didn't miss on Kuminga is just like, wow.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But okay, listen to this.
Mike is very aggressive about all this. I know he's getting quite a bit of criticism, and I'm sure I get some. And I just want everyone to understand we're always being aggressive. You can't just say, it's so easy. Why don't you just do it? It's not that easy. It can be done, and we've been successful in the last decade of making some very big moves, whether it be Durant, whether it be Iguodala, whether it be Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins. It doesn't happen every year. It doesn't happen every trade deadline, and doesn't mean it won't happen tomorrow. So I just think people need to be a little patient, look at the long-term view of how well we've done, and I think we've done a really good job of being competitive. This is we owned the team for 16 years. I don't know any other teams that have won 4 championships during that, even the last 11 years. I don't know any that won 3 or 2 because nobody else has won more than 1. And so that's the fact. 6 finals and 4 championships. You got to look at the big picture here. And it doesn't mean we're not trying to do it in, quote, Steph's remaining years. We are. We're trying. We're trying really hard.
Yeah, not like
they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, but and he's right. It's his prerogative. But the fact of the matter is, I guess they felt like the talk out there among the fan base was so negative that they felt compelled to kind of run down the resume and Mary J. Blige, shout out Mary J., and remind people of what they've done.
Listen, they're doing to a greater extent what I try to mention is that when Bob Myers left and even before he left and Mike Dunleavy took over, what were we saying? He's jumping off a sinking ship.
Yep.
Boy, Mike Dunleavy's got his work cut out for him. Boy, this core is getting old. This is the way I look at it. Anybody who really saw the writing on the wall knew that things were going to have to change. Or they were going to have to make some bold decisions. Well, now here we are 3 or 4 years later.
Paying the price.
And they're still, figuring out where they want to go in the post-Steph Curry era. And what Lacob's asking for is, give me a break. Give me a break. We had a dynasty. It's going to take some time to get back on track. We have a player that's making $60 million who's 38 years old. It's like he's saying nothing lasts forever. And I think he and Dunleavy are a little bit, I don't know if perturbed's the word, but maybe frustrated that the fan base, some of the fan base, they think is completely unrealistic about where they're at, what they've done, and how to get to the next level.
Yeah, and I hear you, but I'll also say this, just don't say runner's knee, Stoney, because we know it's there, but people look at Steph Curry and what's not around him, and people get mad. Fans are mad. That's how they look at it through that prism. But you mentioned Bob Myers, and I will say there were errors on his watch, and now that bill's coming due. And, I can, for the millionth time, bring up what they missed on. But I think a lot of where they're not at is because of those old errors. And right now, you just said it. Shout out Morris Day. You need time.
888-957-9570 is the number. Joe Lacob talked to Tim Kawakami on his TK podcast yesterday and, addressed a variety of different issues. But, the podcast starts with clearly the Warriors are feeling like they're getting too much criticism for sitting tight this offseason.
Right.
And they're saying, look, we didn't sit tight. We tried to make some moves. Trades are hard. We couldn't find a partner. And then rather than do what we thought weren't wise things, we're pushing some things toward next year. And I think the Warriors believe that they're not getting enough breaks from the fans considering the last 16 years under Lacob. Now, the question is whose point of view do you side with? I'll be honest, part of me definitely sides with Lacob and Dunleavy because I think Dunleavy inherited a brutal situation.